a rematch of a regular season matchup we got where UVA handled business, went to Duke and just kind of beat them up, had over 500 yards of total offense. Actually kind of helped Duke out. They threw a pick six and turned the ball over. I think Chandler Morris threw another pick besides that. Duke really struggled offensively. Like I said, it was a blowout, but the rematching here, and UVA is a 4-point favorite. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Yeah, spread was I think it was 2.5 originally, and it's moved up. People have been betting Virginia because people then went and looked at their prior matchup and saw that huge advantage towards Virginia. And I agree, Jack. They also helped Duke in this game with the pick six by Chandler Morris. We talked a ton about that game was reliant on turnovers. It was something that Chandler Morris has struggled with in Virginia's losses and close wins. And, of course, for Duke and their losses, it was largely due to the fact that they fumbled the football or Mensa happened to throw a pick. Duke actually protected the football, won the turnover battle 2-1. Mensa had a fumble in the game and also scored 7 points out of the turnover battle and yet still lost by 17. And that was because Virginia got whatever they wanted offensively. And that really hadn't happened too much to Duke so far this year. They had been pretty solid defensively. But Jamari Taylor had 133 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and Chandler Morris had 316 through the air. Like Jack said, over 500-plus yards of offense. It was really one of the first times that Duke offensively really, really struggled outside of, I'd argue, the Georgia Tech game. But other than that, they have been really, really terrific offensively, moving the ball up and down the field. Turnovers were what were holding them back. They lost that game. They unimproved to 5-5, and now they're 7-5 and somehow back in the ACC championship game. And we somehow thought wrongly that with them losing that Virginia game, they were done. They were not. They beat North Carolina on the road at Chapel Hill, and then beat Wake Forest last week, and here they are. Again, I think I'm going to call that a one-off in that other game. I think this game, again, comes down to turnovers. It's been the problem for Duke in all 5 of their losses this season, and then it has been a problem for Chandler Morris is turning the ball over. I think we'll see a little regression to the mean offensively for Duke. I think they'll have a better day offensively, but you may still see that offensive day from Virginia. You don't just all of a sudden turn it around and stopping the run. You don't all of a sudden just force a guy to go from 133 rushing yards to 70. He might go down to 110, but that's still really, really impactful. Stopping the run, you either have the guys to do it or you don't. And so if Virginia can continue to run the football like they did in that last game, it may not matter that Duke turns it back on offensively. Huge kind of a high-pressure moment. I think this, of course, this matchup holds so much of impact in terms of the last teams in, potentially, as well as the 11 seed and the 12 seed in the playoff. If Duke wins this game, it pretty much guarantees that JMU, if they were to beat Troy, and they are 23.5-point favorites over Troy at home as well, that JMU will make the playoff as well as the American champion, and there's your 11 and 12. That would mean we're in a potential doomsday scenario, which is the Duke doomsday scenario, where Duke does not make the playoff as the ACC champ, and Miami is held out because the committee thinks Notre Dame is better than Miami, and they're held out by 1 spot. In the event BYU loses to Texas Tech, where they're a 12.5-point dog, that would ruffle a lot of feathers, I should say. And while the ACC doesn't have the power that the SEC and the Big Ten has, can you imagine a format that they agreed to? They would never expect this to occur, but the committee saying no to an entire Power 4 conference, a Power 4 conference which is with a national champion winning head coach in Dabo Swinney, with the brands of Florida State and Miami. It would be diabolical. And so Virginia may be the ACC's last hope, because I'm going to be upset if Duke were to win and now they put Miami over Notre Dame.
Sure.
Even though when they're ranked that closely, that is the right thing to do. For you to say it week after week after week and now you just want to change it to make Miami happy, I'm going to be really upset. So I think
That's fair.
Virginia is the last chance for the ACC, and they have to play with a ton of pressure because of that. I also disagree with Manny Diaz, who said this week that if Duke were to win, the ACC championship champion should be in no matter what. No.
You lost 5 games, brother.
They lost 5 games. You lost to UConn. You lost to Tulane, who may be a playoff team. And if you go back and watch look, it's an FCS game, but go back and watch the Elon game at the beginning of the year, and not to Elon Musk, Elon the college. That game, they won 45-17, was a lot closer than it looks. This is a really wishy-washy Duke team.
Wishy-washy is a good way to put it. I'm most curious, and not in terms of X's and O's. Does the pressure get to UVA? You've never really been in this spot before. I will say Tony Elliott's head coach. He's been in this spot a lot as a coordinator at Clemson. So maybe he can bring some of that experience over from his days in terms of how to handle it, how to keep the guys locked in, so forth. But I am also wondering if, while there's so much pressure, if obviously they can't overlook this game because if you lose, you're not in the playoffs. But they might not even really care about that at this point because they never play for an ACC championship. They have a chance to do something that's basically never been done before. I don't think they've ever won an ACC championship in football. They may have one. I wish I looked. But I think they're just fully locked in on getting that done and making history in that regard for UVA. And then they can move on to the playoffs. X's and O's wise, I think Duke needs to run the football a little bit more than they did in the last matchup because Nate Shepard's a pretty good back. He's a very good back in my opinion. And that's just a way to help Mensa get settled in, is if you can take some of the pressure off of him. Because when they played last time, he was 18 for 35. Mensa, that's just over 50% completion. They need him to be way better. You got to find a way to get him settled in. And if you can get the run game going, that kind of, in a way, helps them get settled in. It takes some pressure off. Because I'm kind of with you. I think UVA can largely repeat this offensive performance.
Yeah.
They just dominated. They ran the ball well. Chandler Morris had guys open. He had what he wanted against that kind of weaker Duke secondary. And they may not have 540 yards again. That's kind of an extreme. But north of 400, 30-plus points again, I think it's very much there. So then the onus is on Duke's offense to have the better performance, not turn the football over. Maybe you can turn Chandler Morris over again and take more advantage of that. But still, I think it's going to be on the Duke's offense if they want to have a chance to just trade punches with that UVA offense. That's what I'm looking at.
Sanders?
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on this game.
You talk about Mensa and getting that run game. 50% completion is like an anomaly this season. The worst
Correct.
he's had is 58% in the game against Tulane. He threw the ball 51 times in that game. And so that's eventually going to hurt your completion percentage. He's averaging, I'll round up to 68% completion percentage to avoid saying that hated number. And he has been really terrific. He's been really efficient. He has 28 touchdowns and 4 picks. Run game is only going to help them there. It's going to force them not force them, but put them in more manageable passing situations. And I agree. They got to lean on that run, continue to lean on that run, even if they start trailing early. Don't start going to the pass game immediately. While Mensa is really, really a phenomenal quarterback and has been for much of this entire year, you need to give him as many good passing opportunities as you potentially can. So run the football with Nate Shepard, especially early on in that game. And that's something to definitely look at. Virginia was a 2.5-point favorite. It's up to 4. This game will be played in Charlotte in the Carolina Panthers Stadium. So home field maybe for Duke. It is in the same state. But I don't know the pulse of Virginia. Maybe they should travel well.
Yeah, and Duke doesn't pack out their own stadium, let alone travel.
Agreed.
I think it's just going to be a light crowd in general.
Yeah.
I don't think any team will experience much benefit from the crowd.
Your typical Panthers crowd, except when now they've turned the season around at 7-6. Virginia, like I said, 4-point favorite. I expect a similar offensive output. I think this will be really a shootout kind of game, and I'm really excited for that because I think we're going to have a potential defensive slugfest in the Big Ten championship game that is happening at the exact same time. The total on this game is 57.5. I take the over. I think you're looking at two teams that score near the 30s, if not both in the 30s. That more so would favor towards Duke, but I'm going to take Tony Elliott, Clemson Tiger legend, Chandler Morris, and Jamari Taylor, and the Virginia Cavaliers to win the ACC championship and to make it into the playoff and avoid the Duke doomsday scenario. Speaking on the crowd, Ohio State versus Indiana, the lowest ticket price was $650 before fees. The ticket price for this game lowest is $35.
What a difference.
So we going?
I don't know about that one.
Yeah. I'll be busy. Give me the Cavaliers. Virginia to cover the 4 points. And that'll be me taking every favorite but one. And the favorite in that game is the worst team, BYU. Or Texas Tech, I should say. Sorry.
Wow.
Wow. I'm gonna clip out the Texas Tech part and just be like, this is the worst team, BYU. And
As he wears a BYU shirt.
okay, I will be picking UVA. I have little faith in this Duke team and their ability to show up for big games and not have a dozen turnovers.
Yeah, I am worried for UVA here just because it feels like it would be very Duke this season to somehow win this one and have it not really matter in terms of the playoffs. But, Duke's just laid egg after egg, and I think UVA is the better team. We've seen it once on the field when they matched up. And I think not only is UVA the better team, but I think they're playing their best ball of the season right now, and that'll matter in this matchup. So give me UVA.